What really stops a police officer from just arresting you? It's a serious question. And in India, a huge part of the answer comes from this one single Supreme Court case back in 1994. It's an incredible story that started with someone mysteriously vanishing and ended up completely rewriting the rules of arrest to protect us. Let's get into it.
Okay, so it all kicks off with this really strange timeline. Picture this. January 7th, 1994. A young lawyer, Joginder Kumar, gets called in by the police. The next day, his family tracks him down at a police station. But by day 3, he's gone. Vanished. Moved to some unknown location. For 5 whole agonizing days, he's just held. No charge, nothing. His family gets so desperate they file what's called a habeas corpus petition, which is basically a legal demand saying you have to produce him in court and tell us why you're holding him.
So that's the central question, right? How does this even happen? Why on earth was a lawyer, of all people, held for 5 days with absolutely zero legal justification? Well, the answer to that question would uncover a massive systemic problem and trigger a huge change in Indian law.
So let's talk about the man at the heart of all this, Joginder Kumar. He was just 28 years old, an advocate right at the beginning of his career. He had no clue he was about to become the face of a legal revolution.
The story really begins on the morning of January 7th. He gets a call to come down to the police superintendent's office. The reason they gave was super vague, just an inquiry into some cases. Trusting the system, he went, and his brothers even went with him.
When he gets to the station, they tell him not to worry. They promise he'll be out by that evening. His family is told the exact same thing. But as the day ends, that promise, it's broken.
And that's when the family's worry turns into full-blown panic. They can't find him. They eventually figure out he's been bounced from one station to another and then whisked away to some secret location. No charges, no warrant, not a single explanation, just silence. This was a total violation of procedure, and his family started fearing the absolute worst.
But here's the thing. What happened to Joginder Kumar wasn't just some random one-off mistake. When his case finally made it to the Supreme Court, it blew the lid off a huge nationwide problem, the unchecked power of the police to arrest anyone they wanted.
The court was looking at a crisis. The National Police Commission had uncovered this absolutely staggering statistic. 43.2%, nearly half, of all the money spent on jails was for arrests that were either completely unjustified or just plain unnecessary. This wasn't about one guy's rights anymore. This was about a routine, systemic abuse of power.
So the Supreme Court had to get to the very core of this conflict. It boils down to this. On one hand, the law gives police the power to arrest. But on the other hand, is there a good reason, a justification, for using that power in a specific situation? The court realized that having the power and having a reason to use it were two totally different things. And this led to one of the most powerful sentences in Indian legal history. The court said, the existence of the power to arrest is one thing. The justification for the exercise it is quite another. This single idea became the bedrock of modern arrest laws in India. Just because an officer can arrest you doesn't mean they should. They have to have a real, valid reason.
The court also got real about the human cost. Being arrested isn't just a minor inconvenience, right? It's a deep blow to your dignity, your reputation, your self-esteem. For a young professional like Joginder Kumar, it could have literally ended his career. The court was saying the state can't just inflict that kind of harm on a whim.
So, faced with this massive problem, the Supreme Court didn't just write a nice opinion. They did something incredibly practical. They created a set of clear, mandatory rules. Basically, a new shield to protect every single citizen's liberty. Okay, let's break down these new safeguards. They're actually known as the Joginder Kumar Guidelines. First, an arrest needs real justification. An officer has to believe it's actually necessary, not just a gut feeling. Second, you have the right to tell someone, a friend, a family member, where you are. Third, the police have to write down who you told, creating a paper trail. And finally, a magistrate has to double-check that the police actually did all of this. It's a whole system of checks and balances.
Now, the impact of this case didn't just stop in 1994. Not at all. Its legacy is alive and kicking, and it continues to shape and protect the rights of every Indian citizen right now, today.
You can literally see the ripple effect over time. The 1994 judgment set the stage. Then, in 2009, these guidelines were officially written into the law books. And then in 2014, another huge case, Joginder Kumar, built right on top of that foundation, making the rules even stronger for both the police and for judges. It was like the first domino that knocked over a whole series of changes for civil rights.
So, why does a case from 3 decades ago still matter so much? Because it says your dignity comes first. It strikes that critical balance between the need for security and your personal freedom. It forces the state to be accountable. It makes it crystal clear that an arrest should be a last resort, not the first tool out of the box. This case is literally the foundation of your rights when you interact with the law.
The Joginder Kumar case gave us these incredibly powerful rules on paper to protect us. But it leaves us with the biggest challenge of all, right? How do we make sure that these vital safeguards are actually respected in the real world, on the streets, for every single person? That's the question we all have a stake in answering.